let's call the meeting to order at 6:30. 6:30.
Yep.
First item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the regular meeting held on February 11th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for February 11th, 2020.
Jimmy, you weren't here.
I wasn't here.
I'm gonna just second that.
Yep. And
Any in favor?
Aye.
I just abstained because I wasn't here.
Yep. Okay, now we have a guest here tonight to follow up on the presentation that we made a couple of weeks ago, which was filled with holes. So we've invited Abe Solario. Solario? Oh, rats.
Good
You know what?
enough.
Just before we get into that, Matt, hi. I'm going to ask while Matt's here, because I know Matt's got an appointment that he needs to get to. But so if we could move appointments up to the first item we can go through that and introduce Matt. So if we can have a motion to do
I'll
that.
make a motion to move the constable appointments up
Great.
next.
Thank you. Second. Okay, great. I appreciate that. So as we've discussed, we're going to bring on another part-time constable. We all spoke with Matt. We've decided that Matt's going to be that person. Tonight we have to go through the formal process of appointing Matt, but he will not begin here, won't be able to begin here until we get into beginning of April. Just that's the state police law and all that. It can't be appointed, can't actually take another job.
Right.
And that's the way it should be. But I thought I wanted to take the advantage to bring Matt in here, introduce him to the cameras, introduce him to the public, and introduce him again as the retiring resident state trooper up in Chester. And I think we're very lucky to have him come aboard. He's certainly familiar with the area, and just would like to welcome him, and if we can get a motion to appoint him.
I'd first like to say I'd known Matt for a little bit as a resident and when I was the manager of Chester Airport. And there was always a few little things every once in a while we'd have to summon the state police for, and there was always businesses, everything was it was just great as far as relations with the people involved and whatnot. So I welcome you, personally welcome you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking forward? Looking forward to it.
Can we get a motion?
I make a motion that the appointment of Matthew Ward to constable, term to expire 12/1/2020.
I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Matt, would you like to say hello?
Yeah, hello. Like I said, I'm retiring in April from the state police, 20 years. I did 12 years in the town of Killingworth, and 2 years here in the town of Chester, next door. But I've been a troop after my whole career. So I know this area, I'm very familiar with this area. I think this is a great town. I look forward to, I've always had a good relationship with the schools, and always been very involved in the community, and I look forward to continuing that commitment and just in a different uniform. So, same job, different uniform. I know most of the concerns in town here, a lot of towns have the same concerns. The speeding, drugs, kids in school, all kinds of same small town stuff that, I live in Old Lyme, so we have same small town stuff. I got 5 kids of my own, so I appreciate, the school systems and working with the school. And so I'm not retiring, I'm still working. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm very excited. I'm young, so I got a lot of road ahead of me here, and I'm looking forward to building on what I've learned and moving forward with the community. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're welcome to have. We're glad to have you. Thanks for coming.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And thanks for coming.
Run off.
Yeah, another meeting to go to. Sorry.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Just along those lines, before we move, tomorrow I'll be attending the Troop F. We're conducting interviews with 6 applicants for the resident state trooper position here in town.
Okay.
Now, the town doesn't have 100% of a voice, but I want to be at the interviews so we can try to have a little bit of a voice and exercise as much voice as we can. So, that done, let's move back to the next item, which is Sustainable Connecticut. Abe has come down here to give us a better wrap up a presentation, more complete representation of what Sustainable Connecticut can do for us. And I'm going to just turn the floor over to you.
Okay, thank you. So hopefully that glowing endorsement is true, that I can give you guys a better presentation. Sustainable CT, we're a voluntary municipal certification program. We're working with 101 cities and towns throughout the state, basically to really broadly support and promote them as they take action to become more sustainable, more equitable, and more vibrant. So sustainability sometimes sort of gets shoehorned into the outdated and more traditional solely environmental issues, greenhouse gases, things like that. And those are a major component of our program, but we also focus on all sorts of other things. So the program was designed with working groups that represented, or there were representatives from every town in the state. The COG, so the Council of Government, had people in the working groups, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, and then mixes of volunteers and experts in different areas. So everything that we designed is sort of this platform here. I know you guys can't see this, but you can see that there's a sheet anyways. What this really is there's 10 key categories that we focus on, and this sort of spans the gamut. There's local economy, so workforce development, promoting and supporting local retail options and local businesses. There's sort of the more stereotypical stuff about land use, water body conservation and protection, the things that you would typically think of for an environmental program. There's arts and culture, so we focus on actions that support involving artists in municipal processes, arts really generally, culture for the community, creative placemaking. There's planning, so we work with the Nature Conservancy and other groups to actually provide like community resilience building workshops. So that's one of the free supports that we do, where we bring the Nature Conservancy and they work with you for, I think it's a half day, 4 hours, and they sort of develop a resiliency plan with you. So that's, some of what we do is trying to provide support and resources with experts. And then the rest of it is this plan. So there's transportation, there's energy efficiency, there's inclusive public services, which really spans lots of things, composting, food systems. That's a real range of processes, waste reduction, things like that. We focus on healthy and affordable housing, equity, and then innovation. So we have this broad platform, there's actions within it, and really what the platform is designed to do is to provide a step-by-step process to say, hey, you want to do something around supporting local retail options? Great, here are some steps that you can do to do that. As you do those actions, you earn points. So you document what you did to us, each action has an associated point total, and then you can get recognized for the points that you earned. So you earn 200 points, you get certified bronze, you earn 400 points, you get certified silver. It's kind of counterintuitive that silver is the highest level, so second place is first place. We will be building out gold and platinum and diamond and all those other things, so there's always more to shoot for. But really what that sheet is designed to do is to provide a step-by-step process and sort of a comprehensive checklist where you have everything put together. So the reason that I mentioned that this was built on working groups from the towns is that this isn't just stuff out of left field where we're saying, hey, this is really important, it's not in your wheelhouse, it's not what you do, but you should do it because we say so. This is stuff that towns identified as saying, these are things that we're already doing, these are things that we'd like to be doing, and these are things that we should be doing. So lots of this is stuff that presumably you guys will have already done. So very few people walk in and say, I have 0 points, I've earned nothing through this program. Because if you look at these things here, a lot of them is stuff that the town's already done. So for those, there's look back periods, you submit documentation to say, here's what we did over the past couple of years, you'll earn points for stuff that you've already done. So it's not all moving forward. A lot of it is about providing sort of this checklist where you can look through it and you can say, hey, here's what we're doing. We can see from a comprehensive overview, here's everything that we've done, here's everything that we need to do, and here's everything that we'd like to do. And it sort of provides the systematic way that different departments in town who are doing different things can come together and work on this rather than having stuff sort of siloed where DPW might be doing one thing, Parks and Rec would be doing another, Finance might be focusing on something else. It sort of brings it all together, and it also ties in the community. So when you join the program, every town forms a sustainability committee, and that can be made up of municipal staff, elected officials, but also volunteers. So the idea is that lots of this stuff is about partnership. It doesn't have to be just the town, sort of one more thing hoisted on your guys' shoulders saying, great, now take this on, do all of this. The idea is that you can involve partners, different nonprofits in town, the schools if they're doing things, and volunteers who might have expertise in some of this. They can shoulder some of the workload on this too and focus on the things that they care about. So if you have a conservation commission, they could do some of the things around land use and natural resource conservation, because that's things that they'd already be doing anyways. So the idea is that it provides a comprehensive checklist and an overview, but that it also gives everybody ways to get involved and to sort of support the program. One of the other nice things is that since there are 101 towns that are doing this, and there's 47 that are certified at various levels right now, all the information that someone does, they submit online. So if somebody's done a plan of conservation and development and they're applying for points for that, that gets submitted online to Sustainable CT. So you guys could log on and look at the profile for Haddam and see the exact thing that they did. All that paperwork is there. So the idea isn't to make people start from scratch and say, do this in a silo. It's about collaboration between the cities and towns. So you can look at what somebody else did and say, great, if that works, let's just copy it. There's no reason that you should have to do something on your own if someone else has a good model. So really that's what it's about. It's not about saying, hey, here's stuff that you don't do right now, but that we'd like you to do. It's saying, here are the things that people identified, that your peers identified as important to them and to their town. And now we've put it together in this checklist where there's resource sharing, there's information sharing, there's sort of best practices, and there's an overview where you can look at it all together.
What's the timeline that you can go back?
So it ranges. You'll see the first action here is redevelopment of brownfield sites. That's 10 years. So if you redevelop brownfields in the last 10 years, you'd submit the documentation, you'd earn those points for it. The range is basically 10 years, 5, 3, and 1. Okay. So, but it really depends on the action. And if you go online, every action will say what the look back period is. So some things you might have done, and if you did it 5 years ago, but the look back's 3, obviously that's outdated. But if all it takes is to update that, and it would basically put it in compliance with the action, that's okay, right? So, I mean, there are some things that couldn't be updated. If it was that you had to build a solar array in the last 5 years and you built one 10 years ago, if you want those points, you'd have to build a new solar array.
What's the funding option of all this?
So that's the second flyer here. The community match fund is, so this is new, it's 6 months old right now, and that's, it's up to $15,000 per project. So that's not per town, it's per project within a town is what we'll match. So it's a dollar for dollar matching fund program where, so you have a project, it's gonna cost you $30,000. It aligns broadly with this platform. So what I was talking about before, where there's the really detailed step-by-step process where the redevelopment of brownfield sites, that might be action 1.1.2 is super prescriptive for the town to earn points towards that. However, there's an objective with each action that's much broader. That objective is sort of more aspirational. It's saying, here's why you're doing this action. So match fund projects can just align with the objective of the action. You wouldn't earn the same points. You wouldn't submit under 1.1.2. You'd submit under our new action, which is support community match fund projects. But that one's where it's opening it up entirely to the community. So anyone in this room can propose a project and access the funds. It could be a nonprofit, the schools, the libraries, the town, or it could just be 3 people who say, hey, here's something really important that I'd like to do. You all could propose a project, access the funds, and it doesn't stop anyone else from doing it. So a neighborhood group, a nonprofit, and the town could all simultaneously be leading projects. And it's of any range from $1 to $15,000 is the match. So it could be a project up to $30,000.
Okay. What if the project was a $40,000 project? Would you only match up to $15,000?
So if you had a $40,000 project and you already had, let's say you had $10,000 secured, that would basically buy down the cost of the project. We'd consider it a $30,000 project.
Okay.
The way the match works, so it's not like a traditional grant where it's a one-to-one match where, okay, you have a $20,000 project, you've raised 10, we match the other 10. It's through a crowdfunding platform. So I'll qualify that because people hear crowdfunding and they think GoFundMe and it's someone either raising to go on vacation or raising for their medical bills. So that's not the same thing. It is the same model in that it's online fundraising, but the fundraising can happen in various ways and any number of funding sources can be passed through. So if a business wanted to sponsor something and donate to it, that money can be passed through and matched. If you start a project and then a grant comes in for it, that money can be passed through and matched. If the town has some unrestricted funds that it wants to spend towards a project, that money can be passed through and matched. It needs to be part of a community crowdfunding campaign where every campaign that's over a few $1,000s needs to get at least 20 individual contributions, but it doesn't have to be exclusively funded by individuals. So other funding sources can come through. But for a larger project, this could support a larger project where you say, hey, this was $100,000, we've already secured 80, we just need 20, we want to do it through this. So you could do that where our funding is sort of the final to finish off a larger project. Or if you have other funds already available for a larger project, you want to use those to buy down the cost and basically come in and say, okay, there's 30,000 left that we need to raise, you could do that too. So basically it just needs to be, the 30,000 is the cap and it needs to be the last chunk of whatever you're doing. But there could be larger projects.
Okay.
The timeline for this is much quicker than a usual grant program. So it's not, we don't have deadlines twice a year. You apply, you wait 4 months, we disappear, get back to you and say, sorry, you're not funded. Thanks for trying. It's 5 days is the turnaround time. So somebody proposes a project, we get back to you within 5 days to say if it's immediately eligible. If it's way out of left field and it's not eligible, we would say no, it's not eligible. But if it's something that looks like it could work and it just needs to be workshopped around, we'll call back and work with you basically. So it's not like an all or nothing where you submit this final proposal and then we get back to you with an answer and it's either yes or no. There's always sort of room to work with it because we want this stuff to facilitate basically the program here and to incentivize people to say, hey, this is good, we do want to take part and we do want to do this work. So we're trying to be flexible, and that's the reason that the actions don't need to align directly with, or that the projects don't need to align directly with the sub-actions here. Because those things are really prescriptive. And there's not lots of people that are going to be excited about coming in and working on municipal planning processes necessarily, but they would be excited about putting in place a community garden or something like that.
Right.
So the match fund's supposed to take this sort of planning process-driven program and operationalize it into tangible stuff in the community, visible things that people interact with and benefit from.
Great, great. Any other questions from you?
No,
Very interesting.
Anybody in the audience have any questions?
Abe, so what's the ultimate goal for this program? What's the benefit to the state besides it all being good things for the community?
The benefit to the state, right, that it's good things, basically that everything within here is good stuff to have happen. So we're not part of the state though, we're a nonprofit. So from the state's standpoint, if you're asking from like a governmental standpoint, I don't know, we're operating independently to that.
So where do you get your funds?
Private philanthropy. So we're funded by community foundations, family foundations.
Okay.
Yeah, and so those are the folks who are making the match
This,
fund
the
possible
three on
as
the
well.
bottom are right here, right? Those are three big ones?
Yeah, those are the
Yeah.
three main ones.
Tremaine Foundation, Smart Seed, and Common Sense.
Yeah. But so the benefits are, it's varied. If you look at each of these actions there, so this is at a much more individual level, but each action tells you the associated benefits. So that's part of it, is that as people are doing something, we want folks to understand, wait, why am I doing this? Why am I checking these boxes? And doing what can sometimes be a really tedious process, right? Filing paperwork and doing exactly what someone's asked you to do. If you say, hey, we did this, we basically did that, let's just give you what we have right now. We're gonna say, hold on, it needs to be formatted in this way, you need to document this. So like some of that stuff can be fairly in the weeds and frustrating. But overall, it's about sort of facilitating good things in the community, letting everybody get involved in this process. And I think the resource sharing is really important, because as communities do this, there are really small towns that will look at this stuff and say, hey, we don't have the capacity to do this. And sometimes that's legitimate, right? People already wear 6 hats. They can't be spread any thinner taking on something new. So that's why, or that's part of why, we ask everyone to submit the work that they've done. So a smaller community or someone that's busy or someone that may not have particular expertise can look at it and say, well, we would like to have a complete streets plan here. We don't really know how to go about doing that. So they just look at what someone else did and they copy it, basically.
2 questions. One is the projects that you fund, is it only bricks and mortar projects, or would you be willing to fund studies as well? If there's a longer term objective requires a lot of front end examination, is that something that would be considered? Is it really building bricks and mortar type projects?
It's primarily oriented towards, either something that's going in the ground or something that's tangible, or it could be a program, right? It doesn't have to be that you're building something and putting it in the ground. It could be an arts and culture program or something like that. But in terms of like a study, so the funding is limited to, I have flyers too, so I'll pass these out.
Oh, okay.
So it's really towards the execution of something and not the study or feasibility or something?
Yeah, there could be, so like if the municipality wanted to do a study to assess transportation options and things like that, the funding's limited to 1 year's worth of activities. But if that could happen within a year, so that type of study would be okay. If it was like, we want to do scientific research and the outcomes and the benefits are unclear and way out in the future, that's not something that we would be able to fund. But there is some ability to do like assessments and things like that, reviews of processes.
I guess the other question is on the matching fund side, I guess the group funding side. Would you match in-kind contribution such as materials, professional services, land, or that type of thing? So it has to be a kind of a cash donation?
It has to be a cash donation. So we've talked about that with IO because we'd like to be able to match in-kind. I mean, in-kind support is real support, right? If that reduces the cost by $3,000, it's the same as having gotten that cash. So we would really like to be able to match it. But the mechanics of the match fund, we've partnered with IOBI, that's the crowdfunding partner. Cash has to go through their platform. Essentially, they have our funds in an account. As cash comes through, donations come through for projects, that activates the match from us and it goes through. So we just don't have any way to recognize in-kind donations. Though IOBI is working on that. So if they figure it out, we will be able to.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll push that off until they do. Great questions though, thank you.
Anyone else? Carol, you have anything to add? No? Okay, Abe, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Yes,
That was
thank you.
much more detailed than I was able to do. And you focused on a part of it that I was not as interested in. You know, the fundraising is more what I was focused on, the sustainability part of it, and that section of it, while it's very important and something that we've been moving towards, I think we're going to find, I am hopeful that we find we've already got quite a few points because we've been doing quite a bit.
I think you will. And
Yeah.
to be fair, this is always the part that's most interesting to people.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's a really easy job that I have when I get to go out and say, hey, we have dollars. They're very accessible.
Yeah.
Do you want them? I'm essentially selling money to people. So it's always a good reception. It's an easy job.
But we'll, I think as far as I'm concerned anyway, we'll discuss this again and next time, but as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to, and I think there's an April deadline that we need to
So there's an April deadline to apply for certification.
Right,
There are two deadlines.
right.
One's in August, one's in April. If
Yeah.
you wanted to, I think it would be a heavy lift to register, put everything together and apply in April. If you guys are already working on lots of these things though, and you're looking at stuff going, yeah, we did that checklist, you could. And so we do have, I mean, our staff is available to support with those things too, right? The idea is that we have this checklist, we have these resources, but folks need the support to go through that. So our staff's available. Over the summer, we have fellows who are placed with the COGS. They're there full-time for 10 weeks.
Great.
It's university
Yep.
students who get training. And their sole job is to work with towns and help you navigate the certification process. So if you guys want to shoot
The
for
first
April,
step might
it's
be
great.
though for April to pass the resolution.
Yeah.
And just establish that we are going to be going towards certification.
So
And then
there's no
we'll be-
deadline for that though. You
Okay.
can
Okay.
pass the resolution at any time.
Terrific,
Hey,
so
one-
Yeah.
August is where we'll shoot for.
Yeah.
Good.
One last question. So in a small town situation like this where people might get excited about a number of different things, how have they decided on what project
Yeah.
or projects?
Well, so they don't have to, right? Because people aren't competing with each other. There could be 5 projects going on in Deep River at any one time. No one's competing for the cash. So it's not, I mean, everyone is competing in that it's a first come, first served
Right.
program. If we run out of money, we can't donate money that we don't
So you
have.
could have five $15,000 projects going on.
Yeah. So really, you could have 5 $30,000 projects.
Yeah.
If the cap is 30, we match half. We want to be equitable about how we distribute the money, right? We want it to go all over the state to communities of different socioeconomic characteristics, different size. So if one town blasted out 20 applications and was going to be $300,000, we'd say, hey, pump the brakes, let's do a couple first and see how it goes, because we do want to spread the money around. That being said, there isn't a cap. I think New Haven's had 7 projects proposed. There are 5 or so that have been actively crowdfunding or already fundraised. So there's not a limit to it. Some folks have been really active, others haven't. I mean, some of these things take time to put together. If projects came in, so part of the idea is we have the cap at 15,000 to our match because we want to be able to support things of varying size. But we are currently supporting and expect to support projects that range from a couple $100 to that 30,000. We don't want to. We actually at some point removed some of the languaging surrounding the match cap because it created an incentive for people to say, "Hey, we want to do a project. Great. How much? Well, 30,000 because that's the max." And we want to support projects
Right.
of whatever the cost is up to that max, right? But we don't want to support projects that are 30,000 just because the max is 30,000. And all of a sudden, that lumber and that labor got really, really expensive to hit that cap.
Right.
So, but yeah, no one's competing. I mean, the idea is that these are community projects. So in a sense, if you looked at a map of where a project takes place and where the donors come from, it's local, right? Like it's not people coming from Italy and all over the world and the country donating to these projects. So you are competing with each other in that if there were 20 projects going on at once, we all have limited networks. It's a small town, right? You can't get everyone is not going to donate every day to a project. So there's some idea of you do want to, I think, sort of get together and focus on priorities and what makes sense to do. But at the same time, a couple of projects I don't think is tapping anyone out.
Okay,
Thank you.
Very good.
thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you
Dave.
guys.
Thank you.
That's you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and so anyone really is welcome to reach out, right? These are accepted on a rolling basis. People can propose at any time. The first step is a conversation with me. So if you have a project or something that you'd like to do, give me a call. I'd love to talk to you about it.
Thank you.
Well, Abe, so our step should be they make a resolution,
No, we're in.
and then we decide we're gonna do this. We don't have to be certified before we start doing our projects, because we have to submit the projects for certification.
You just have to be registered first.
So we have to register. That's our first
Registration is
step.
the first step.
And then do our committee in town. That'll then, I think, be the clearinghouse for some of the project ideas.
So the projects don't need to be approved by, they need to be approved by us, and they need to align with the work that we support. But there's not there's no hierarchy in terms of that it goes to the Board of Selectmen or to the Sustainability Committee or anyone like that to approve a project. So we wouldn't want to, and we wouldn't approve a project where the town comes out and says, no, we don't want to do this. This person's proposed this 100 times, it won't work, we don't want to see that happen. But at the same time, we are trying to support projects where it's empowering anyone to say, hey, I want to do this, this is what's important to us. So they don't need to be approved by sort of any hierarchy outside of us looking at it and saying, yes, it meets the criteria. But yeah, so every time a project is approved, we connect with the Sustainability Committee to say, hey, here's this person, here's what they'd like to do. Get together, see how you can collaborate on it. So the idea is to create connections and collaboration, but not necessarily like a strict approval process. Yeah, and so that's the first thing. So before calling me, I guess, or you can call and talk about your projects, but you do need to pass the resolution first. So
Yeah.
that's the first step.
Well, hopefully in a couple of weeks.
Do you guys want to speak of these, or?
A bunch of them were passed around, so.
I think we have
You got them
some.
all?
Yep,
We can leave some, if you want to leave them here, we can leave them out.
for anybody
Yeah, sure.
that walks in,
Great.
yeah.
All right, thanks very
All right,
much.
thank you
very
very
much.
Drive safe.
All right, next item on the agenda is MIRA non-binding statement of interest. We had a conversation about that last week, or last meeting. You were not here, but I gave you the information. We had a chance to look at it. If you have any comments, statements, thoughts? What I'd like to do is to reinforce that this is absolutely non-binding. It only just
Right.
gives MIRA an opportunity to continue to move forward with their studies and things like that. I'm recommending that we do sign it. You guys authorize me to sign it. It doesn't commit us. We're going to be doing an awful lot of work. Hopefully some of this sustainability stuff can help us with studying about how we're going to reduce our waste costs. But
Become a greener town.
that's all coming.
Yeah.
But this, I don't think this gets in the way of anything. It doesn't cost us anything, and it doesn't commit us to anything, so
I'm fine.
Yep.
okay. Can we get a motion?
I'll
Just
make-
to authorize me to
I'll
sign
make a
it.
motion to authorize Angus, first selectman, to sign the MIRA non-binding statement of interest.
I second that.
Any conversation? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next item is Jane Stevens is asked to come. I think she had a conversation with Jim.
Yep.
Jane and I had a couple of conversations before. Come on up to the table.
Oh, thank you very much. I just wanted to sort of pass around some photographs. My attempt at taking them from my camera and putting them on a Word doc. First and foremost, thank you very much for the opportunity to share a concern we have about our wonderful community. We would all agree Deep River is a beautiful little town. However, it is not without its share of blight. The absence of ordinance allows for the decline of pride in Deep River as our home and the decline in value of our properties. We want to make clear we are not talking about a house that needs to be painted or a lawn overdue for a mowing, like mine usually is. We're talking about three serious conditions which proliferate in any town without some degree of oversight. The first concern would be that of safety. A yard full of debris will create obstacles for emergency responders, potentially putting their own safety at risk. Not to mention, a yard full of debris can harbor rodents and other undesirable critters. Another serious concern is the environmental impact. Any abandoned, unattended, inoperative vehicles left to rust into the ground will eventually leak fluid onto the ground and into the water table. We would like Deep River to remain deep, but not polluted. Lastly, but certainly not least, of negative impacts, blighted property impose consequences on our community's economics. No one here would disagree the house next door influences the value of their own, and that would eventually impact the very tax base of our town with the decline in property values. There are enough variables in the calculation of our house values. The collection of discarded tires in your neighbor's yard should not be one of them. I've lived in Deep River for 16 years. 2.5 years ago, I purchased a house in Winthrop. Over this short 2.5-year time frame, the house situated next door has evolved into a blighted property. I've shared some of the photographs and also some of the other properties of concern. As neighbors of such property, we have experienced the following: excessive garbage, noise, arguing, 2 a.m., 8 vehicles, actually there might be 9, one just appeared several days ago, 4 of which have not been moved in over 2.5 years. We had an unmaintained septic system for 1.5 years. The septic system is situated approximately 30 feet from our primary water source, a lake. Individuals defecating outside on the property during the septic demise, uncontrolled dogs, and the list goes on. We look to you to suggest how we can combat this situation and our investment in our homes and our community. We feel it would be extremely beneficial to implement a blight ordinance, develop an action plan with enforcement procedures, perhaps some tools to encourage homeowners to clean up their properties. We ask that you kindly give this serious consideration as this impacts us significantly. Again, we thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of what you spoke about is a concern. Some of what you spoke about I don't think would not be considered part of a blight ordinance. You know, some of the things with the outside activity, you know, arguing and things like that. It's impossible for us to enforce. And I'm concerned, and we'll certainly talk with the town council, and we'll look at other towns that have blight ordinances and see how that works. My concern about this is something that you addressed in the beginning of your conversation. You know, it can be considered subjective. You know, how do you enforce a subjective rule or law? And I think that might be the difficulty. But let's look into it. We certainly will consider looking into it. I think, though, if you have immediate concerns right now, like these photographs, some of this I've seen, some of it I haven't. You know,
Yeah.
some of it, 9 cars. I mean, you can't have more than 1 unregistered car on your property for any length of time. So if there are cars that are not registered, call the zoning enforcement officer, and we can enforce that.
Okay.
Some of these things look to me they might be building code violations, and we can try to enforce that. I need to look into that. I don't know how we do that.
Thank you.
But the first step is making people aware, and I would suggest the first step might be making your neighbors aware that this is. And I understand your concern. Yeah, I understand. You and I have spoken about your situation.
It's frightening.
Right. But I think anyway, the first step is to reach out to your neighbors who are offending you and let them know about what that may or may not be. And it may be impossible, and it may be something that gets to a solution. I don't know. But let's look into the blight ordinance and see what happens.
I'm not sure if Karen and Peter have anything. They live down there with me.
Okay.
So.
I think it's a shame that it devalues your property and that you're having trouble selling your house. So things like that, maybe a blight ordinance might help people, to keep things straight. I understand though the concern, you don't want to be told you can't have a purple door or whatever, so it's a little, have to be flexible with something like that. The vehicles definitely are a problem, and some being part of the septic system is also a problem, but.
Right, and I'm fairly confident we've had the health department up there. If they've stopped, then let me know, and we'll get them to continue going to inspect. But there has to be evidence that the septic system has failed, and that's been the concern.
Is this the middle house, the third house down? Or what house do you live in?
I live in the third one. It's got the stone on the front. The second house down is the one.
The second house down.
Yeah, is the problem.
And they own all those cars?
Yes.
They all belong to the second?
Supposedly, we don't really know. When I moved in, there were 2 people living there. Now there's 5 or 6, and it's 550 square feet.
I'm very familiar with that area.
And I think the septic system probably is stressed continually, and
I'll make a point of talking to the health district tomorrow.
thank you.
I think it's important, and we discussed on the phone, it's important to bring it out to the public forum so people can see and if an ordinance is in place or isn't in place, it gets it out. And like I said to you, if it might take time, if an ordinance is something that should be done, unfortunately, it probably wouldn't help you in your immediate situation in
Right.
trying to sell your house. But ultimately, we want to keep the town clean and all that kind of stuff. And how we do it,
Right.
that's to be determined. And maybe in the public forum and on TV and all that maybe some of the offending parties can now see that they're on record. That that everybody might have the opportunity to say that maybe they'll some peer pressure to help. But
That
we'll
would
do
be
whatever.
helpful,
Yeah,
but I
we'll see.
think
So
my
planning and
neighbors-
zoning and public safety are the first departments that we should check
Well,
into?
public safety, planning and zoning is not an enforcement agency.
Right.
Planning and zoning is the rules,
They
the
would
zoning
oversee
enforcement,
how many- they
the
would
zoning
oversee how many
enforcement.
unregistered vehicles are on the property?
No, the zoning enforcement officer will.
Zoning enforcement.
And you need to make her aware,
Okay.
and she
And
can.
the idea
make
that they're
records.
probably heating the house with Rhino gas tank, barbecue grill, and camping.
That would be the fire marshal,
That fire marshal?
Yep.
Okay.
and that would get and I don't know the whole process, but if the fire marshal has to get into the building, the fire marshal can eventually bring the building official in, and we can, they can make inspections.
Would that also be the fire marshal for their oil tanks? It's extremely rusty, and if they put oil in that, that's gonna go
That
in-
might be health, and that might be
Health?
building official, and that might be all
Because
three,
that's a
so.
concern with
yeah.
our water.
If you- I would suggest that if you have,
I
yep,
got a funnel and a
yep.
hose.
Individual concerns
Yeah.
should be put down on paper and bring them in, and we can direct them where they need to go,
Okay.
okay?
Okay, thank you very
All right.
much.
Thank you. Yeah. I have a question up here too I want to get to. Go ahead.
I came in support of the idea of a blight ordinance. My name is Bill Anastas. I've been in the town for about 18 months. My family and I purchased a home on West Bridge Street last June. A quick Google search showed me last night that the towns of Guilford, Madison, Colchester, Groton, I believe Middletown, all have blight ordinances. And the language is virtually identical for all of them. So there's really no need to invent the wheel here. It's already out there. Certainly you would need to consult with town council on how best to approach this. But I think it's something that we need. I live 2 doors down from a home on West Bridge Street that is a virtual junkyard.
I gave them pictures of that.
And I have been told by all my neighbors that this has been addressed here to the selectmen multiple times over the past several years. So why isn't something being done about this?
Something was done about that. It cleaned up considerably from what it was. We don't drive by every week and take a look and see what's going on. We depend on folks to go down.
It's pretty bad.
That's not really an accurate statement.
Okay. I'm not gonna argue with you.
I think the concern too is for anybody, I think if we implement a blight ordinance, it would be a real positive, because anybody could move in next to you, and you could all be in the same situation, facing devaluation of your property. And I just think it would be a huge benefit for everybody and the community. We take pride in it. And, for me, I work my tail off for my house and my home and where I live. And now it's all being impacted. And I've, tried for the last 2 years to deal with this. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not going to be able to approach my neighbors.
Okay.
It's very unstable there.
What part of town is that? Where?
Starley.
Winthrop, Winthrop Road.
And there was 5 little houses there
No.
forever. I grew up
Oh,
right there, so
you know it.
I live up the road, but it was always a nice little, they're all small
Yeah.
little cottage type houses. I mowed grass on them when I was a kid, so Angus and I had a discussion, and it was always a nice little
Yeah.
so-called neighborhood.
4
You know,
of them
there
are
was a
great
lot of
little
people from
houses.
New York that lived
Yeah.
there. They came there on the weekends or during the summer.
Yeah, I'm sure they were built as cottages and have turned into full-time homes.
Right.
And that's, that's part of the problem.
And it's, the imbalance of taxes, and being taxed on a property that the value is plummeted.
Yeah, because you're waterfront property.
And
It's,
but I can't
really,
sell it.
I mean, it's going down because
Yeah.
of your neighbors.
Yeah, and, so
Well-
I'm very grateful for you listening and would really appreciate anything you can do to help us all out.
Yep, we will look into the ordinance, we'll look into see.
What's the procedure? How do you go forward with getting a blight ordinance?
Well, I don't know the procedure exactly.
Okay.
I think we look into it, we put some language together, we talk to town council, we see what happens.
See what
It's
the,
gotta go, we
see what the
can't-
other towns have done.
Yeah.
See what the other towns have done. I know that none of our neighboring towns have anything like this. But it doesn't mean that we can't. It doesn't mean we shouldn't.
You can
It
be
means,
the
but it goes
first.
to the whole town to vote. It's not the Board of
Pioneers.
You
Selectmen
can
that
shed that
creates an
scruffy
ordinance.
and proud.
So we have to get language
Put
together.
out tweets.
We have to get a lot of stuff. There are a number of different things that need to happen. The Board of Selectmen would have to pass it and then move it on to a town meeting. I don't know for certain, but I think I was told that a blight ordinance was suggested in this town many years ago and did not get passed. But there's a whole bunch of new people here in town now, so it might, so.
Yeah, the town's reflecting the failure for that to get passed. So
Well,
let's get it passed.
Okay.
Well, there's a property right here on Main Street.
Yep, there's no question,
Especially
man.
when we have the mustard.
You know what?
People see that.
I'm sorry. North Haven did a creative thing a few years back. There was a big blight problem there, and people just like this were fed up.
Mhm.
But there are extenuating circumstances for a few,
Mhm.
i.e. older people.
Right.
They don't have the resources, or
Yeah,
or they just
right.
don't understand what problem they're creating. And then there's those that don't give a crap.
Yes.
Yep,
So what North Haven did was, in those circumstances, there was a fine that would increase had they not got the property back to a normal state, whatever the benchmark was. What they did was, with older people who did not have the resources, they used the community effort to do that. High school students getting community hours, volunteers.
Maybe that's a very sustainable Connecticut community management project.
But that's how it helped some of
Or
those
our
properties.
neighbor needs to.
And once it catches on, people, it's a snowball effect.
Yeah.
yeah.
When people start becoming singled out for having the crappiest property in town, usually they get the hit and they clean it up. But it's
Well-
a start, and I feel bad for you. I
No.
really do. And you're a very patient person because
Yeah, it's
you've
been,
taken things
it's been
another
insane.
direction.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you,
for
but sorry. No, I
I
feel
mean, I
sorry for you.
appreciate that. We all do, I'm sure.
Okay, next item on the agenda is appointments. We've already taken care of one, but we have two left. Community Health Committee has a vacancy that Dawn Norton has volunteered to fill. She's spoken with the chairperson who has recommended that she be moved forward.
Okay.
The second is Connecticut River Area Health District. That is a Board of Directors position. It's simply an oversight board. There's just no management involved in that that I can think of. All of the member towns all need to have a representative on board
Okay.
that, okay?
Then you're the man.
In the past, the member towns were represented, let's see, of the member towns are now Deep River, Chester, Haddam, Clinton, and Old Saybrook. Of those member towns, First Selectmen are the representatives on all of them except for Old Saybrook. Clinton, that's not quite accurate anymore. The First Select, they've moved to a town manager,
Right.
and the former First Select person is now the representative there. When I took office, Dick had been the representative, and I took it over. I have no problem continuing with that, and it's a 3-year term. So if we can get a motion to approve this.
I make a motion. The following appointments: Community Health Committee, Don Norton, term to expire 12/1/2021. And for the Connecticut River Area Health District, Angus McDonald, term to expire 12/1/2023.
Okay, Community Health will have to go to town meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any conversation, any discussion?
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next item on the agenda, you all have been very patient, thank you for hanging around, is the Veterans Memorial Green Committee.
Very interesting meeting. I hope we can install a gun range into this blight ordinance.
I hear you.
I'd like to introduce Roberta Shaka. She's the president of the Deep River Garden Club. She called me several weeks ago about a proposal at the green in the island. I had to come to our meeting, and she gave her presentation to us, and we voted unanimously to pass it on to you gentlemen, and hopefully you'll agree that what we agreed upon. So I'm going to turn it over to Roberta and let her give her spiel.
Well, as the new president of the Garden Club, I kind of set an agenda for the year that we wanted to have all our projects kind of have a Save the Planet theme. So there are several different areas in town that we would like to re-landscape and do some pollinator things that increase bees. I can see lots of ways of getting lots of points on here. So we're just kind of going through different areas in town where we think we could maybe do some projects, and the Veterans Green was one of them, and maybe redoing the little triangle there. There's 2 beds there that are really, the plants are kind of had it, and so that would be one area that we would want to maybe think about doing. And so the whole idea is to replant with things that will be pollinators, that don't need water, so saving water, having less grass to cut for the town. So all those things are things that we're trying to promote. So I don't have a specific plan. We're just trying to see if if this is something that we can do, and then once we kind of decide on our priority list, we would submit some plans to you and to the veterans for the green, and see what you think of it. But that's just
one of the things Roberta mentioned is the roses and everything there. They get up so high, especially in the summertime. The visibility there is
it would all have to be very low.
So everything they would put in would be low and easy to maintain and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we were planting annuals there for a while, but there's just no way to bring water over there. And in this environment, like standing there with a hose and wasting water, just like I don't want to be stoned. So I just think having things that were dry gardens would be something that we would like to promote and advertise that as something. If we put it in that we've done this and kind of use it as a tool for the town to take notice, and that this may be a way forward for people to think. So
Sounds nice. And as we spoke, I think we like Bill just said, we got to pay attention to the traffic and make sure we're not blocking any visibility.
It would have to definitely be very low, and just maybe even more like a rock garden type of thing, and then possibly doing some plantings around the other larger memorial, like increasing that and putting in more shrubs and flowers in that area as well. So
I think the only thing that I can think of regarding that kind of thing is to remember that is a public gathering place, and we have events up there, and we need to make sure that there's still room, number one, and it's not something that can
I'm not going to take the whole
trampled.
thing.
It's okay, a little bit, inch by inch. Let your inchworms.
I'm not taking over the whole space yet. So just kind of that's our thought process. So and there's some other areas in town that Angus and I discussed, but once we kind of get a little more idea of what we can do and how much it would cost and that,
good.
We'll come to you with a plan. So
thank you.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Roberta.
Okay.
Now I'm going to proceed.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, Roberta.
Thanks, Roberta.
At our last meeting, we've been looking at having a bronze plaque made for the Veterans Green for the platform. Going back to what Angus just said, that this is a town gathering place. This is one of the reasons I'm excited about redoing that platform. We're not gonna interfere anymore with the town park. So what we decided on is, this is gonna be our plaque. It's gonna be approximately this size, this height. It's gonna go up on the upper level, right in front of the Columbia. And we reached out to 5 different vendors. We only got quotes back from 2 of them, and the one we decided on going with is, could I have that back, please?
Use everything.
Is we decided to go with One Look at a cost of $645.51, and I would like the board of Selectmen to approve this so we can get this ordered.
Yeah.
Now, my next question is, when we get it ordered, where can we have it delivered? Should
We have it delivered to the town hall, it's fine.
Delivered to the town hall,
Yep.
okay, all right, so Bill Burdick is ramrodding this. I've also gotten one quote for redoing the platform. It was substantially more than what we have in our budget. I reached out to the mason that gave us a quote back in 2017, because I don't feel it's fair to him that hold him to a quote that's 3 years old. I have not heard back from him. And one of the things I have found, one of the things I'm proud about, and the committee's proud about, is how much work we've kept right here in Deep River. I found a place out at Platwood Park that does brick engraving. He did it for Kirtland Commons.
Oh, great.
His name eludes me right now, but he's behind Top Notch, Tim Lee's.
Oh, that's Dwayne Brooks?
Brooks, yeah.
Brooks. Yeah.
Brooks, yeah. So when we decide to get some quotes from masons and we get the bricks, and the main thing we still need is names. I'm hoping that I have approximately 61 or 62 names right now, of which there's like 12 or 14 that are still on active duty.
Okay.
So, when they get off active duty and we find out, then they'll get their name in the brick and stuff. So, I'm still hope for September that this will be done and we'll be able to have a dedication.
It was for veterans,
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Hopefully, when I hear from the other mason and we decide, hopefully by March or April, we'll be coming to you people to get it approved. And hopefully we'll get some bids that are more in line with the money that we have in the budget. If not, we might have to look at doing some fundraising.
Sustainable Connecticut, I'm sure will help.
That's what I was thinking. All right, thank you very much.
All right,
and,
thanks, Rich. Do you need us to authorize that spending today?
I
for
would
that
like
plaque?
it so I could call
Yeah,
Bill
okay.
Burdick tomorrow and get, because
All right.
we're looking at 2 to 3 months.
How
to
much
get this.
was it?
Yeah, what's the number again?
$645.51.
Okay. Can we get a motion to authorize the committee to expend $645.59 to purchase a plaque? I don't remember what it says,
It's
in honor of
one
those who
look, and
served.
The plaque size is going to be 16 by 8, like I
Yep.
said.
What does it say again?
One look.
No,
What it says,
the actual, what's
the engraving or
What's the
the...
plaque gonna
Oh,
say?
the engraving?
In honor of those who served?
Honoring those who have served their country.
Okay.
And it's going to have
Okay.
4 little stars in the
Great.
corners and stuff.
Great.
It's gonna be. This is the same people that Joanne does business with in Liquid Counties.
Okay, can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the Veterans Memorial Green Committee to buy $645.51 for a plaque.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Do you know how much is in that account? Your account, you know how much is in that account? It's right now, it's $13,330.92.
Oh, I didn't want to mention it because I don't want to let the Masons know how much.
They don't want to watch, they don't watch this, hopefully,
You want to say they're broke?
I can't imagine
Are you resetting that top? Is
anyone who's not a Deep River citizen watching this.
Yeah, right.
Oh, no, Brandon.
Okay.
But I know there are.
Brick is
Yep.
there, it's been in
All
there
right.
so long, it's afraid if we put it back in, it's just gonna crumble.
Audience.
So we're going with new brick. So yeah, it's gonna be very nice when it's finished.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll move on to the audience of citizens. Is there any business, any questions, any concerns? Mike, Jack?
Any word from the assistant commissioner or commissioner's assistant?
Yeah, as my email to you was, so far I've been emailing back and forth with and I had a couple of conversations with the assistant to the assistant. I did meet with the commissioner on Wednesday,
Oh, cool.
and he was very receptive to the conversation, but that was in a huge gathering, so I'm continuing to follow up with him and try to see if we can, it'd be great to get him down here.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're trying to get above the assistant to the assistant, who suggested we meet with all the same people we've already met with. So, we're gonna continue to try. Anybody else? And we have Board of Finance coming in 2 minutes, so why don't we just go straight to an adjourn?
Make them, we adjourn?
Yep.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good evening. This is the regular meeting of the Deep River Board of Finance, regular February meeting. The agenda calls for approval of the regular minutes from January. Anyone wish to make a comment?
Well, I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from January.
All in favor?
No.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Ah!
Now you ask for comment.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Would anyone like to discuss them, or second? I'll call the vote. All in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Audience of citizens. Anyone here to speak to the Board of Finance? Hearing none. Let us move to the treasurer's report. Tommy?
Okay, hopefully everyone has the report. I just handed it out. So we're in very good shape as far as the our People's United account. That's our holding account, money market account. We're getting 1.50% interest. Of course, that's because the tax revenues have been coming in. I made actually 3 wire transfers in January from Citizens, our general fund account, to People's United Bank. There was one on the 23rd of January for $1.4 million, another one on the 26th for $1.3 million, and then on the 31st $1.2 million. So it's $3,900,000 that was transferred into that account. Let's see, if you look at where we were last year at this time too, if you look at the bottom of that report. We were $7,255,000. We're at $7,901,000, $901,000 now. We did receive our education monies January 31st, $416,674. That was our second installment for this fiscal year. First one was in October 31st for the same amount. We will receive the large amount, which would be $833,000. That'll be coming probably at the end of April.
Do we get 3 payments, Tom, or 4?
Three payments. But 2 of those payments are like a quarter each, and then we receive a half in April. Yeah.
Because when I look at revenues, it was about 50%. Okay, good.
Right, that's right. So that's pretty much all I have to report. So anyone has any questions? I was just trying to get Russ Marth onto his account at Deep River Community Fund. Since Citizens Bank is no longer in Deep River, it's a little more difficult. So we're trying to do everything by internet. So hopefully we'll get that taken care of soon.
Appreciate your efforts.
Oh, no problem.
Eventually we'll be named again.
Does that present an awkwardness if Citizens is not present in Deep River? How do you make cash contributions to your account?
Because actually
You
that was,
drive? How do you do it?
no, actually everything is pretty much. Well, the general fund account. Actually, we set up that account with Liberty Bank too, where the monies are actually working with them there's actually a general fund account that was set up with Liberty Bank now too, where we do wire transfers. So,
Are you specifically asking about the memorial fund?
What's that?
Are you specifically asking about the Deep River Community Fund?
Well, any answer is fine, but I was specifically answered, since Tommy had said that he was trying to get you on citizens, which is not present, how do you make contributions to your
I don't make contributions, but Kathy does upstairs. All the checks would go through the town's accounting manager.
Checks, we can deposit checks
So,
remotely,
yeah,
but you
that's
do
what I
get
think.
cash contributions, do you not?
I do, but they would still go through upstairs. Cash contributions
Upstairs,
happen.
yes, but somebody's got to take them.
They happen about twice a year, usually on Family Day. And then maybe somebody will send us $5 in an envelope once in a blue moon. It's very inconsequential amount of money.
Well, and I'll let you guys decide, just seems, why not switch to Liberty? But anyhow, that is for you to discuss.
It makes no never mind to me.
I assume it makes no difference to you, it is at Tommy's discretion.
Yep.
If I might, or if I may, I think we actually kind of had that conversation as we knew that Citizens was going to be closing. I kind of remember having a little bit of a conversation around this table, and Tommy, correct me if I misstate anything about that, but at the time, we felt it was important to move some of our accounts over to Liberty because of the cash component and the ability to make a deposit and walk across the street and make a deposit, and to have a local bank that we're doing our business with. I still feel that a local bank is important to do our business with, but Citizens over the past years has offered some pretty good services, and we've benefited from having some accounts there. I don't like and this is just me speaking, Tommy can make these decisions and we can all talk about this, but I don't like having all of our money in one bank. Just because we have one local bank, I don't think it's appropriate to have all of our money there. But I'm not married to Citizens. I'm not a fan of theirs, especially since they left us with a great big building in the middle of town that we need to fill. But I think if everyone agrees, we can have a conversation about where might be a better place, more suited, that has a local branch that we can get to easily to do business with.
Well, we've had that discussion too. I know Kathy upstairs, everything's worked out pretty well with Citizens right now.
Yeah.
I think if there was an issue that we could, probably do that. We have given Liberty Bank, a few more dollars. They actually had a special account that we set up where we get 2.35% interest over a certain length of time, and we've got like $573,000. Actually, we have over $600,000 with Liberty. And and as you said, we're not trying to put all our eggs in one basket. So we've got People's United, Citizens, Liberty, Essex Savings Bank. So we do have spread our monies around too. But having said that, we definitely want to get the best interest rates possible too.
Right.
And that's why I've been trying to work with People's United, even though they did come down 0.25% on the interest rate, but that rate is still very competitive. So I think as we stand right now, I think everything's okay.
Okay. Good.
It's your discretion. Good. Okay. Recommendations of Selectmen.
Recommendations, I'm not sure that I have any. Right now, I will inform you that we appointed our new constable tonight at the Board of Selectmen's meeting. He'll be part-time. He can't begin until April 1, but the appointment part of the process was important as far as getting him the training that he needed into the programs of the state of Connecticut so that he can be ready to begin on April 1. That's Matt Ward. He was at the Selectmen's meeting tonight. We introduced him to the community. He is currently the resident state trooper up at Chester. He's been there for 2 years. He was in Killingworth for 11 years prior to that.
I missed that part, thank you.
And he lives in Old Lyme, so he's kind of a kind of
He's local.
semi-local
He's
guy.
been in the neighborhood. He's actually worked with Dawn in the schools quite a bit, so I'm very, very happy that he's here. And I think the town will be well served from that.
So he's retiring from the state police, or will do both?
No, he can't do both. He's going to retire from the state police.
He's got his 20 in, and he's retiring.
All right. Losing that. Oh, is that it for recommendations, Selectmen? or-
Well, just again, more information. The governor has, I was attending the cost annual meeting last week, and the governor spoke and took questions, and one of the selectmen from another town got up and asked why he was holding the town aid road money and other bonded money hostage, or in relation to the tolls. And of course, he insisted he wasn't, but the next day that money was released. So I expect we're going to be getting that money will be coming into our accounts hopefully very soon. We still have to go, we thought we had a pretty comfortable approval process, and we did. Then this happened and it got held up, and now it's got to go through the bonding council, and I'm reluctant because there are no tolls. The state's going to have to figure out how they're going to fund the DOT and the highways. And I'm not sure if that's going to have any impact on that bonded money or not. I hope not. I don't expect it to, but we don't know at this point. It might for next year. As I said, we have the governor's budget, and we're completely held harmless on that. Everything stays the same. But we'll see what the legislature does with that. What else? I think we'll talk probably as we're going through the budget. Lori had a question about police services and that budget, but we can address that when we go through the budget.
Yes.
So no, and we're going to be starting workshops. I still hope to be finished and ready for next Wednesday, but we have departments that have not even Tuesday. Sorry, thank you. But we have departments that still have not submitted. So I'm not sure we can have a total thing, but we can certainly, hopefully, we can
Well,
start.
we've got two coming. We have the
This Tuesday?
library. Yep,
Okay,
the library
great.
is coming at 7:15, and the fire department is coming at 7:45.
Okay.
So at least we can meet and get their input.
Yeah. No, that's good. I just received the fire department today, so. So, okay, that's it for me.
How about we use Selectmen as a opportunity for Angus and I to discuss. I sent you a brief email talking about the situation of Dime Bank. Okay? And I would like to share with what Angus and I did and have you participate in that. Dime Bank loaned us money to begin the energy, what's the actual phrase?
Municipal energy upgrade.
Okay, good. This board approved it, went to public hearing, approved it. It was approved in August. We used the funds to pay, and we still have a few dollars left.
We're just talking about that. The project is done, to my knowledge, so we'll use the remaining.
It's 29,767. You'll see it down in about halfway in your.
Which is, I'm actually surprised it's that much, but nevertheless, first interest payment was due today, and I guess I focused on it. While I believe a board did everything we should have, we did not stop along the way and say we should create a new line item in the budget and fund it for this amount, $3,000 first interest payment. Okay? So there was a bit of confusion on that. Angus and I authorized Kathy to create a new line item, which we thought was completely consistent with everything town get, and put the $3,000 and send it out. Okay. However, what makes this story interesting is that our approval, town's approval, was conditioned that the school, the elementary school, would contribute a portion of that savings. Okay. As we sit here now, last time you and I chatted, we have not consummated that agreement yet. I have no doubt that it will be done, unless you did it the other day when I
spoke with the chair. I spoke with the chair. She's in complete agreement. We'll work with the superintendent and let everybody know that this is where we are right now. The savings, all of the projected savings, and will be equivalent to the money spent. And it's about 80% of the money spent, and 80% of the savings will be at the elementary school. And everyone thus far has agreed that that's appropriate for them to pay that much of that payment to Dime Bank. So,
So we should receive sometime, hopefully soon, and I'll use the word receive, the school should send to the town, what, 80% of the $2,900 or something like that, which is sort of odd, because all the money sits here and we send it over there and they'll send it back.
well, that's what we were, that was, you know, I appreciate the conversation that you and I had, because we were able to hash it out in a way that, while that seems cumbersome, and it's less cumbersome than other options that we explored. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. No, that's right.
So that is the, I think I called it a bit of a fire drill, but that's the story that we talked about briefly on email and disclosed publicly. And does everyone have any concerns? Or, I think it's going fine, but it is.
Payment was made, right?
Excuse me, the payment was made.
I don't want to default on a loan, sorry, I've never
Did
done it in
not
my life, I
seem-
will not do it now.
The level of confusion did not seem to rise that we should stop the payment and incur late fees or anything else. Simply because we had not yet signed some sort of agreement with the school, so Angus and I sent it off. We'll deal with that soon.
And we've said before, the energy savings have been excellent, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The electricity is what we're able to monitor year to year. The gas is really a weird situation, or the fossil fuel energy. Since we've installed the gas in the school, they had a faulty meter that they misread for a year and a half. The last 2 winters have been mild at least, so it's difficult to ascertain real savings. But I believe that we are experiencing savings from that. So, and this project, no, this particular project has, while we haven't seen the financial results yet with the heat, I can tell you anecdotally that all of the rooms, all of the school is more comfortable now and easier to manage than it was. You know, there were a lot of cold spots, there were a lot of places. And this replacement of the valves is going to save us a lot in the next couple of years, because we were doing that, you know, 10,000 here, 15,000 there, and this really.
I know that we've said that before, but as long as we're talking about how much things cost, whoever might be watching, I want them to know that there's a savings for that. So,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that's right. You know, I'm talking about how comfortable it is, but we're able to manage the heat in these rooms, so it's not getting cold and then trying to get up. It's a much more level.
Being comfortable either.
No,
Or the
I
light
don't know.
being warm or what.
I don't know. They want to go warm up, go get some firewood.
Okay.
We'll call it Selectmen because we're talking about. I would like to, I received from the auditors a preliminary audit ending June 30, 2019. I would like to offer to you what I interpret to be the surplus that we ended June with. Okay? And I will preamble it with, this is not the first time we've had this conversation. My notes indicate in June I gave you an estimate, and in July I gave you an estimate of it. I believe that I underestimated. I believe the number was close. I was estimating about $470,000 in July. The current number the auditors are coming up with is 705. Which is about, it is 10.74% of this year's budget. Which brings us within the realm of what people suggest we should be at.
Still low according to some recommend, some want us closer to 15.
It is still low depending on some, but you know, we're close to $2 million. That's a lot of money.
Depends on
It is a
what-
lot.
How about insight?
Yeah, but it's only 2
How about that
months.
insight? About the, what's
But
it?
it's only 2 months.
And it's interesting, that is the way the auditors phrase it.
It's not
Yeah.
even too much.
Not
This
even 2
amount of
months,
money will
and
get
that's
you
not-
through a certain amount of months,
Yeah.
okay? That is the way
That's not-
we've had every auditor knows the way they phrase it. I can't figure out what that means. Does it mean, please Deep River residents don't pay taxes? State don't send us money? I can't figure out what it means. It's a measure. What, I don't know, do you want to be able to say we have enough revenues to cover the entire year's expenses? That seems a little silly.
No, but I don't ever want to get in the situation where we were in December 2 years ago, where we're just not going to have enough money to pay the school, pay anybody. We're going to have to take a loan out to make payments. We need to have that money coming in. If the state doesn't come through with
And
their
that is what,
their road funds, and that was the
I said
problem.
this for years, what does that mean? But there was a
That's what
while
it
that we
means.
wondered whether the state would live up to the promise.
Right, and if they don't, we need to be able to make our
That's
payments.
the meaning of a rainy day fund.
Yeah.
When you cannot, you've paved the road, but you
Yeah.
can't pay the guys.
Can't pay the guys, that's
Because
not-
we were expecting
Our
it.
education fund monies, if they ever knock that, I mean, we're getting a lot more than Chester and
We're
Essex.
getting a lot more. Yep.
So that's what scares me, actually.
me too.
is, You know?
Yep.
So if that took a big hit, we're gonna be in serious trouble.
The way we look at it, we spend approximately $1.5 million a month. ballpark.
With schools, that's correct.
Yeah, and so having 2 million, 45 days tops, you know, that's, I don't consider that. It's prudent to have something, and you don't want to have too much,
No.
but a month and a half isn't a lot.
Okay, I'm not an economist by any means. Tommy is our treasurer. I think that we've worked pretty hard over the last few years to get us to a level that is comfortable. We are where, given this information, which I don't know why I hadn't seen that, but given this information, I think we've reached a goal that I had set to get to 10%. And I think that's it's not 2 months, I don't think 2 months or 45 days or whatever that is anything other than a measure that people can picture. I don't think, like I say, I don't know, but I believe that is simply a measure. And I think, based on all recommendations from all municipal financial recommenders, that's where we need to be there. And that's where we are now. So I appreciate that the community has supported this and that you all have supported it, and we can move forward from there. And we have enough now to where we can, in fact, get a night's sleep as opposed to stressing out about whether the state's going to come up with their promises. So.
And they have continuously shown in past years where they've cut back on the amount that we should be expecting to receive for whatever portion of the budget, whether it's LoCIP or.
Yeah. Well, this legislature, I have no trust that they will not change something in the middle of the stream.
And there goes our funds,
Yeah.
that cuts right into it, so.
Yeah.
When
I don't have no
I
problem.
first came to the Board of Finance, it was $400,000, that's what we had, I think, or somewhere in that neighborhood, 450. And that was not enough, and I was always a proponent of putting some extra money in the rainy day fund to have.
It's the same thing
and
with
this-
the pensions too. I mean, we've made some big
That's right.
strides in
That's right.
trying to fund the pension.
Get those funded to a
Yeah.
place that we're not.
Much better shape now in both those avenues than
So would
we've
that
ever
figure
been.
be kept at that figure, at that constant, or would it be added to each year so that it increases and increases and increases? Or would we just keep it at whatever it is now, say, which you all seem to be comfortable with?
Well, if you use 10% as a marker, then whatever our budget is for a year, that's kind of in the ballpark
So
of
you
where you
wouldn't
want to
be
be.
adding to what's already there?
Depends on what happens to the budget. If the budget is, what is it now? 15
$17 million.
17? If it goes to 20, you might want to go up, might.
No, I think we need to, I would suggest that we stay at a minimum of 10%. Whatever our budget is, we want to be at 10%. Whether that means adding to it or taking from it, I think 10% is a good benchmark for us to say that's where we are. let's take a breather. Maybe we want to get to 12. I mean, 10 is the low end of all the recommendations. But we have benefited from monies that the state, as much as I might say I don't trust them, has given us that they didn't promise, that we hadn't budgeted for. So we've had the benefit of a number of different things come into place that puts us where we should be based on all recommendations. We can get better, but let's take a breather and see where our budget goes.
And I think that we will deal with that in the budget preparation.
Yep, and we may be able to use
one of the things we have stared at each other and said, that is as far as we've got, maybe we should start to set money aside. Sinking funds is what I think they call it. To begin to pre-fund capital things, new autos for police, for fire, etc. But surplus and sinking funds, we will deal with them in the budget.
That is a philosophy that I think we should begin to think about, is do we want to change how we fund things? We've been exclusively borrowing for things, for capital projects, for as long as I've been in town, that I'm aware of anyway, certainly as long as I've been involved in the politics here. And I think that there is a lot to be said for a good long-range plan that doesn't include just paying off loans, but includes, let's put some money aside for capital projects. So we can gauge it, we can see where we are. And if we hit a bad year, then we say, okay, we're gonna hold off on that contribution. But we know going in, we budget for it, and we know that in 10 years, we're going to have the money for the radio systems that we need to upgrade. Or we're gonna have the money for the police car that we need to have, or all of these kind of things. That's why we have a capital improvement plan, and I think it would be important for us to consider changing our philosophy as to how we fund the town.
Well, we have the capital non-recurring fund too, that we've been really adding. We haven't been adding too much onto that at all.
No,
right.
No, that's just considered.
But it is there.
Arguably, we funded the, what do you call it, when you go out and the appraisal, we sort of accepted that premise that we would fund it over periods of time. Now can we do it in more detail or better? We will deal with it in the budget.
Yep. So one more question before you go on to anything else, just for clarification for me. Rainy day fund is for something that happens in town that we don't have the money for, we will fund out of a rainy day fund. Okay. Surplus means it's something separate and extra we would be building for to purchase something or amend something, fix something that we hadn't planned on?
I think that you're calling the same thing by two names, the surplus and the rainy day fund.
Separate it out for me, define it for me.
No, I would suggest that surplus, rainy day fund are different terms for what I refer to as the budget reserve. It's money that we have in reserve for a rainy day.
The unappropriated general fund.
It's a surplus of our general fund that we don't have planned for. We maintain it so that if we come into a situation that we need money, cash, immediately, we have that money there.
Okay.
We can use it if we come at the end of this budget season, we are $100,000 short of a $0 mill increase. We can talk about using this to get us there. And then we'll have the philosophical conversation of, do we want to tap our reserve fund
To do that.
to maintain our mill rate? So I think, and you guys who know more than I do about this, tell me if I'm using the wrong term or the right term, but I believe that it is the budget reserve fund. And we can call it a surplus, we can call it a rainy day fund, but what it is money in our budget that is not allocated for anything. It is simply there to to ensure that we are able to continue business if we have an emergency or some reason that we need to.
But it wouldn't be the same as budgeting, say, $50,000 a year for a future capital improvement,
Correct.
right?
Which is a separate line.
That's a
Separate-
different,
Correct.
separate
yeah.
line.
That's correct. And that's important. As Bud mentioned, we kind of did this with our assessment and our reval. We said we're going to put $20,000 aside every year, so that in every 5 years we'll have the money that it's going to take. We didn't establish a line for it. It's in our general fund. We know about it, and we've done that with Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec has said, well, our carnival is going to go into a fund so that we can buy equipment. Well, it didn't go into any line. It just went into the general fund, and we all knew that was there. So when the time came, we allocated that money, knowing that was there. I think that it might be more appropriate for us if we have a fund that we're setting money aside for, that we establish a place for it and say this is where it's going.
That's what I thought the rainy day fund was.
No,
Laura, you said
it's
the
not.
unappropriated
It's
fund
not, because
balance,
it
and
is
that's
not
what that
allocated
is.
towards anything. It is just money
Right,
that is there in reserve.
It's the
Yeah, that's
surplus,
the whole thing.
surplus.
It's all of it.
Right.
But I know that of the whole fund, the whole amount that we have in the unappropriated general fund, which pays the school, which pays every bill that we have to pay, 25,000 a year is going towards reval. So, okay, so maybe we have 100,000, but we really only have 75 to pay our bills because 25 is for the
Yep.
revaluation. So I would really like to, and I've mentioned this in the past, I'd love to see a separate, okay, we put money, and maybe we just keep putting it in the capital non-reoccurring. Put that 25 right in there so that we know the reevaluation money is coming out.
Better you should make a sinking fund with a line, so you know that's exactly what it is.
That's what
I would like to do
And so that
that.
future people know what it is.
That's right.
Yeah, this is what it
You don't
is.
know who's gonna be around in 5 years or 10 years.
Yeah.
I'll be gone, you'll be gone.
I don't know, Gil, what are you?
You will still be here.
We're not hinting that we will not be here.
Bud will be here until he's 97.
But, yeah.
All,
I only look right when I cross the street.
all to be determined. All right, surplus, does anyone wish to turn to, anyone else have anything else to chat about before we turn to the budget?
I do have a question. You probably went over this in the Selectmen meeting, and I'm sorry to be redundant. Do we know what we're doing for a fire truck that at this point?
I expect we're going to see, we're going to talk about that next Tuesday, but do we know what we're doing for a fire truck? We're applying for a grant, but that grant will not be able to fund anything this year. That'll be for the next year. The fire department is moving forward on shopping and building out their truck.
Okay, they have.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
where that's what
Yep. We've got some conversations about whether or not that's necessary and all that, but those are conversations that I think that we promised the town, the fire department, that we would, and the town, that we would fund this truck this year if we did not get the grant. So I believe that we're obligated to do that.
They'll come see us very soon.
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Tuesday.
So they're coming in
They're
on
coming in
Tuesday, and we'll have a longer
7:45.
discussion on whether that fire truck will be in this budget year or next one, because we have a corresponding debt that we would initiate.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So
We
we
will
have
have
to
to
include it one way or
establish
the
it
other.
and go for that. Yeah.
Okay. Good, thanks.
Yeah. No, thank you.
All good.
All right.
All right. Let us look at the budget. Anyone have anything jump out at the budget? We are in what, the 7th month of the year, which means that we should have spent, what's that, 50, 60%? We should have about 40% left. And this straight line concept I came up with, if you spend everything equally, that's my criteria, it's really good.
And
Anyone have any questions?
I had 3. One
You had
was
3?
on the police, that their
One of
supplies.
those, please? Okay.
Yeah, one was their supplies line.
Yep.
Are you revenue or expenditures?
Expenditures.
Or expenditures.
Okay.
And expenditures, sorry.
And
Police
police is a good, especially
protection,
after we have just appointed someone.
somebody new.
Yep.
And I believe it was miscellaneous supplies was over by
500 or so.
Yeah, 500 or so. So I'm assuming that's new purchase?
Yeah, it actually,
Or-
it is new purchases, but part of that is, you know, with the new officer, we're outfitting, ensuring that the car and the computer in the car, all of that kind of stuff. So we spent a good amount of money with that, with uniforms, all of that kind of thing. And I don't think we're finished spending on that yet. But at the same time that we were doing that, we also we discovered that the computer in Ray's car is required an update in that computer. So that was an additional expense that was not planned on. And what I thought is that rather than, you know, take that money from different lines in there, we know there's going to be a surplus in that department. But rather than try to cloud that with taking money from different lines, let's just spend the money where it's supposed to be spent from. And at the end of the year, we'll look at it and say, this is what we had to do. But yeah, it's mostly all of that has to do with, and you'll see a little bit more. The vast majority of it has to do with the new officer. A good portion, a small portion of it has to do with the updating of the computer in Ray's car. Now, your question regarding the town clerk?
Yeah, the indexing.
But let me just clarify. Since you just this evening, he will need a new uniform and training, and both those lines are virtually at zero now. So we will be overexpending in those lines.
Training, we're kind of doing a swap, because he's also going to be part-time over in Old Lyme.
Okay.
So Old Lyme has paid for the training, and we're going to pay for the uniforms. So it's a wash. We're spending the same amount of money. But yes, so we will have more of an expenditure for uniforms, and that is zero. And unless you have another thought, I would prefer to spend from the line that it is designated, and then we will correct that with the surplus money that we talked about as a result of the state, you know, requiring 85% as opposed to 117% or 113%, whatever that was.
With the hiring of a new part-time, will there be a declining of the other part-time? Will there be there's a catchy word, dollar for dollar, or will you in essence be adding a second part-time salary on?
We will add, and this is what we'll talk about when we prepare the budget, but we will be adding for next year, we will be adding another part-time salary. It will be in the vicinity of $40,000. Now, what the thinking is right now is that we have two officers that are talking about retiring. One of whom is going to retire. Ray is going to retire. What we're considering, and Tom, our resident trooper, and I have been talking about it, and I think I've spoken about it with you guys just briefly in passing, is that we will hire another, when Ray retires, we will hire another part-time constable. So we will have 3 part-time constables, as opposed to 1 full-time and 1 part-time. The hours, if they're all at a minimum or a maximum, a minimum of 24 hours per week, will add up to more hours than what we have coverage that we have now. And it will save, if we continue with that, if we all decide that that is the way to go, which is what my recommendation is right now, is we will save on any benefits,
the full-time
healthcare,
employee,
the full-time employee. We have the cars for this. We have, everything except for the people right now, and we have people in line that interviewed for this position. So I think I think we have a good plan to move forward, and we'll talk about it as the Board of Selectmen as that time comes forward. But yes, for a very short time, we will have a full-time and 2 part-times. Ray is going to retire. He's still choosing his date, but before July 1st.
Which is the way it used to be.
Yep, I think it is, yeah. Many years ago, before I was here. Yeah, but Ray was full-time.
Yeah, that's
all
what
the time. Yeah.
That's what you're talking about.
Yes, right. Sorry.
That's what I'm trying to find out.
I know. I was already ahead of that.
I see Cleon over in the
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
come back to life. So the Board of Finance should expect that part-time salaries will go over when we get in July. That line will probably be over, and as will training and uniforms. The bottom line in police will probably be a surplus, which we will, most likely, we will then reallocate, but, so everyone is agreeing that we have authorized Angus to overspend those line items, and we'll catch it at the end. Is everyone in agreement with that? Good, all right.
This is not an easy thing to do, switch personnel like that.
All right.
It's not an easy thing to do to switch personnel like that.
No. I think we were in good shape. I'm hopeful. We'll see. We're doing interviews tomorrow for state resident troopers, but I'm enjoying working with Tom. I think he fits into the town quite well.
So you're gonna have 2 troopers named Tom, a resident state, and a constable named Tom?
No, the constable is Matt.
Oh, good.
No, we can't have two
Now we can't be
Toms.
so.
You can't have two Toms.
Sorry. You're the best qualified, but you got the same name as someone else, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Charlie.
Come Monty Python, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, too bad. All right, Laurie, take us where you want us to go.
The other was the town clerk.
Right. We spoke about this actually when it was happening. The index land records line was changed to archives, or archival supplies. And that, well, all of our vital records, let me just get this together from what Amy's response was for this. The vital binders and dividers needed to be purchased. All 3 categories. So let's see, marriages, births, and deaths all goes into those vital records, and they all have their own binders. All 3 of those binders filled up at the same time, and we needed to purchase new binders. In order to do that, at one time, she had to go over budget in that line. But we spoke about that as it was happening, or I think we did anyway. I know I knew about it and I thought I had spoken about it with you.
No, I thought we had spoken about it as well.
That's coming back to a point,
Yeah.
yeah.
We have an election in March, right?
Yes, we do.
Super Tuesday, will they go over?
I am afraid they will.
2 more elections, right?
Yeah.
At the referendum.
Super Tuesday.
We have the referendum and we have Super Tuesday.
Oh, we have 2 elections.
Well, we're not about the we're April 28th, correct? Isn't that what kind of?
Well, right, not Super Tuesday, but our primary.
We don't go
Our
to Super
primary.
Tuesday? or-
I thought I actually thought we had, but I don't know.
No, we're not
I
part
pay a
of
lot
the
of
Super
attention to
Tuesday.
that.
No.
Not Connecticut.
Okay.
So they will probably go over again.
Yes, and they've prepared a budget that is, I think, more realistic. I think you and I sat down and had a conversation. I think we can have a much more realistic budget for them this year.
Special services. The Memorial Day and Veterans Day Fund was last month at around 40-something% within budget,
Yeah, where
and
is
now
that?
they're over.
Hang on a second. You asked that, yeah.
That is, I think, page
I got you, yeah.
2,
I
I think so. Yeah, I'm trying to find, yeah, page 2.
Page
Memorial
what?
Day and Veterans Day.
Memorial Day, Veterans Day line, special services. Well, last
Yeah,
month
I
it
need
was
to-
fine, and this month it's, and we haven't even hit Memorial Day, so what happened?
I don't know, I will check. I didn't have an opportunity to check
No,
under your email today, but I will check that.
Yeah,
I'm more than likely, that was just logged in the wrong month.
Too much of that going on.
No, it's been
I mean,
happening for as
didn't
long
get
as
the-
I can remember.
Yeah, I didn't get the budget until I got it forwarded a copy.
Yeah, I don't understand that, because
I'm not-
you're on the list,
I'm on
on
the
my
list,
email, when
yeah.
I received it, you're on that list, so
I
you
did
need
check
to either
it.
check your
Yeah.
spam and all that kind of stuff, but I'll check with
Yeah,
Kathy.
I have, and I'm just not sure if it's a glitch here in an old computer or what.
I don't
So-
know, but I have asked Kathy continually to mail those out on Fridays. She is always reluctant to, because she says, well, we're going to write checks next week, and we're gonna do this, and then the meeting. But I said, look, it's not an end of the month meeting, we're not checking, we're just checking a
It's not the end
point
of the
in
year.
time. It's a point in time that is dated on this, so it's.
Right,
we'll-
it's not the
We'll
end
try
of
to
the
do a better
year.
job getting it out to everybody on Fridays.
Yeah.
It's certainly something that we've been talking about for 4 years now.
Yeah, but longer than that.
Under assessor, I see that she is spending money under evaluation appeals. Are people getting evaluations and coming in and challenge them yet? I wouldn't have thought they would come in yet. Not
Oh,
much.
people are definitely coming in as soon as they.
People have their evaluations. A nice
Their
fellow came to visit me.
their appeals go to the board.
Seen them yet.
But they have people who have an appeal. I assume it's
Oh,
not
yeah,
out of
no,
the new
folks-
work. It's out of the existing valuation. Ah, okay. I was assuming they were all involved with the new work. Okay. Because I actually saw the board had met. They didn't incur much expense.
Yeah, no, we go to court and, there are attorney's fees that are, in the selectmen's thing, but also, there are other costs that go into this.
All good. Anyone else have anything particular?
I just have one question. I think it's a good thing, but I notice on the selectmen, accounts manager assistant, we have 88% still left.
Yeah.
We go to the planning and zoning, you have part-time clerical, you have 100%. You go to inland wetlands, part-time clerical, we have 100%, which I think it's good, but.
Well, there's the two separate things. Nancy Howard is the clerical for both planning and zoning and for inland wetlands, and we have not received her bill, so that's.
Okay, I'm looking at it and I see 100% and.
No, we don't pay her on a
Okay.
weekly or bi-weekly or monthly basis. We get her bill and we pay. As far as the accounts manager's assistant, that job has been posted. We just haven't filled it yet. And we will fill it soon.
We like to use extra money.
Oh, I know we do. And it's, it's hard to say, well, but, I think. No, all
I want
that.
to comment on the big number is the town crew. Seems to me we're okay. Close.
We're okay, we're tight.
Okay.
We spent a lot of money early this year, as opposed to waiting until spring. Or we spent a lot of money late this year, but it got us to where we are. We spent a lot. We were expecting, we've got, I think we're okay. I know we're okay. We don't have any other projects lined up until next year. We can start those and get those done.
And we've talked about it, but you have spent General Road 8 and the monies the town puts forward. You're virtually exhausted most of your road work. What is interesting is your earlier concept that the governor is finally releasing Town Road 8. I must admit I had forgotten that we had taken some degree of risk on that, but
Yes, we did.
those who try.
We've got a surplus that we can go.
Well, that's-
That was a joke. That was totally a joke.
No sense having a surplus unless you can spend it.
That's
exactly.
Wow, I can't hear you.
Anyone else? Interest payment? We have not, according to this report, we have not sent money to the, am I reading here? SCG, the payment, the 25,000 payment to the gas company.
No, that goes out.
Oh, when's it go out? It goes out on end of year?
No, I want to say it goes out in April or May, but
Okay.
yeah.
It's not April or May, that's why.
We generally, though, I think our agreement with them is that we send that out as soon as we receive their tax payments.
That's what I thought, which seems, should have been.
Yeah, I'll check on that. It should have been.
Okay. All right, all good. Any other questions, anyone? Seemed to me we're holding well, doing well.
I think so.
We have a budget of, $18 million, and we spent 11 so far, 7 left. But year isn't over yet, so.
No.
All right, everyone. That brings us to, that's the entertainment part of our meeting is sort of over. Anyone else have anything they'd like to talk about?
Yes, Laura.
We have the invite to the fire department banquet on Saturday, the 21st of March. Please let me know who wants to attend.
Be confident Carmella and Rich will be there.
What?
Just making sure that you heard that.
It's gonna be a Newport.
Grandson's the captain of the cadets.
Ah, there you go.
Nice.
She's gotta go.
So I got
You should go.
I will.
There's a first for everything.
There you go.
Okay, so I'm gonna put you
That's-
down for
that's
two.
important. Angus and I went last year with our brides, and we had a very, very pleasant time.
Nice.
They go out of their way to be nice to us.
You're gonna be there?
Which I appreciate that.
Well, that
I
was
would not
last
be
year. We'll see
surprised. Things the world they are changing, but they are a very cordial group, so, yeah.
How about-
Don't know.
Let me
Not
know,
sure yet.
and I'll
Yeah,
send
let
it in,
you know.
because I gotta
It's a
send
very
it in
pleasant
soon.
time.
It's what, March 21st?
March 21st.
Here's a question I have for you, and we
Gills
can,
to post, huh?
Yes.
and it is an idle conversation. A few of us went to a meeting a month ago that was about how to conduct meetings.
Yep.
Sort of an ironic
Yeah.
meeting, isn't it? But nevertheless, what was raised there, I don't know if it was a question or volunteered by the speaker, is whether a chairman should vote at a meeting.
You know,
I was always taught chairman of the Board of Finance did not vote.
unless it's a tie.
Unless it's a tie, or as Art Thompson explained to me, unless you can cause a tie. You can vote to create a tie or to break a tie. It seems to be those who thought this board up assume that the chairman would sit back, or else it would be an even board, okay? The argument of the woman who conducted, an attorney, is that the chairman was elected. I went around and knocked on doors and said, I can represent you, town. I have the opinions that you have, and that type of thing. I convinced them, and people elected me. Therefore, I should have the right to represent and do what I told people I should do, okay? If I vote with you and it is a tie, then it is the same thing has been conducted. So I don't know. I was always under the impression by Art Thompson, who sort of schooled me in it, that chair did not vote here. I have never been particularly conflicted. We have rarely gotten a situation where you needed a tiebreaker. but,
Very few times.
Very few times. So I don't know.
Well, I think they'll, I mean, I was not able to attend that meeting, but my understanding is that you have the right to vote. There is no law that says,
Correct.
and there's no rule that says you cannot vote.
And that's basically
And
what
it's
she
really
said.
just,
That's correct.
it has just been the policy, if you want to even
Policy
go
or
that
practice,
far.
yeah.
It's been the practice of
Right.
this board not to. But that's not, not at all, I would equate that to the same as the Board of Selectmen. I mean, I vote every time.
Not to vote. I assume you vote on everything, right? Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah.
John Bauer would, from time to time, feel strongly on certain things, and he would tell Laurie to make sure
Put
his
his
name was voted as well, but,
Yeah.
it has never, I don't think it's been particularly burdensome, but I was just curious whether, and I have no idea what would be different if I was to vote, so, but it is a conversation, so.
More of a vote counts,
One more.
The number would go up.
Typically, it says the vote was unanimous.
So,
You know, the only time I specify who did and who didn't is when we have 2 nays, 1 yay, then I specify who voted which way. I don't know, it's general consent.
all right.
Right, wrong, I don't know.
No,
Nobody's
that's
ever
what you
corrected
should be
me.
doing.
Yeah,
If it's unanimous, nobody has to be named, but if
Named,
it's
yeah.
not,
then I have to spell it
Right.
out.
Well,
and
that's
that's the way I
interesting.
was-
You don't want the minutes to show who voted for what and who voted against?
well, if everybody voted and it was unanimous, it's just all the members of the
Everybody.
committee.
Didn't she say at that meeting that it should be spelled out as to who did and who didn't, or who was?
No,
If there's a separation, yeah.
If he votes no
Instead
and I
of
vote
three
yes,
votes. But if it's
I have to say he
unanimous,
voted no and I voted
Unanimous
yes.
is one.
Yeah, unanimous, that's what I've been doing.
Right, but even, it could be everyone votes for, but one person abstains, and that should be listed.
Right, that should be.
Yeah, when that happens, that's specified too. So,
All is good.
I try.
When you do.
I may get it wrong.
Ready?
Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Yes.
A second. So moved. All in favor?
Aye.